Imagine being told that the one thing you desperately want, security, wealth, a respected voice, a stable family life, will not simply be handed to you. You will have to build it, brick by brick, year after year. And the strange part is, the longer it takes, the stronger it can become. If Saturn occupies your second house, your relationship with money, family, speech, values, food, possessions, and security can become one of the most important stories of your life. The second house is what you accumulate, not only money, but knowledge, skills, family values, reputation, resources, and even the words that come out of your mouth. Saturn represents time, discipline, restriction, responsibility, delay, endurance, and maturity. So when Saturn enters the second house, it asks you a very serious question. What are you willing to build slowly enough that it can actually last? This is not necessarily the placement of instant wealth. It is often the placement of earned wealth. You may experience periods where money feels difficult to accumulate. Income may come with responsibility. Expenses may force you to become careful. Financial security may take longer than you expected. And when you look around, you may sometimes feel that other people are moving ahead much faster. But Saturn does not ask you to win quickly. Saturn asks you to become financially strong. There is a huge difference. A person can suddenly receive money and lose it just as quickly, but someone who has learned discipline, budgeting, saving, planning, investing carefully, controlling unnecessary spending, understanding the value of resources, can eventually build something much harder to destroy. That is where Saturn in the second house can become incredibly powerful. Your financial story may improve significantly as you mature. What feels like restriction early in life can eventually become financial wisdom. You learn the value of every rupee. You understand that small amounts accumulated consistently can become something substantial. You stop chasing quick rewards. You start thinking in decades, and that shift can completely change your financial future. There is another fascinating side to this placement, your speech. The second house governs the way you speak. Saturn can make your communication serious, measured, cautious, or deliberate. You may think before saying something, and when you finally speak, your words can carry weight. People may remember what you say precisely because you don't waste words. In some cases, there can be hesitation or insecurity around speaking, especially earlier in life. You may worry about being misunderstood. You may hold back opinions. You may feel that your voice isn't powerful enough. But Saturn has an interesting way of transforming this. The person who once struggled to express themselves can eventually become an extremely effective speaker, writer, teacher, analyst, commentator, or communicator, because Saturn gives you something more valuable than effortless expression, precision. You learn when to speak, how to speak, and when silence is more powerful. The second house is also connected with family, and this is where your early experiences can become particularly significant. You may have grown up in an environment where responsibilities was taken seriously. There may have been financial limitations, strict expectations, emotional reserve, or a strong emphasis on duty and survival. Perhaps you were expected to mature earlier than you wanted. Perhaps you learned that security could disappear if people were careless. Perhaps family responsibilities shaped your attitude toward money from a young age. Whatever the circumstances, they can leave a lasting imprint. But Saturn's purpose is not simply to repeat the past, it is to help you build something better from it. You can become the person who creates the stability that may have been missing earlier. You may become extremely protective of your family's future. You may take financial responsibility seriously. You may work hard to create a secure home, and eventually, you can become the foundation other people depend upon. Food is another second house theme. Saturn here can make your relationship with food more disciplined or restricted at different stages of life. You may develop simple eating habits. You may become conscious of what you consume, or you may experience periods where food, diet, or family eating patterns require greater discipline. The deeper lesson is moderation, learning that what you consume repeatedly becomes part of what you become. The same principle applies beyond food. What you repeatedly think, what you repeatedly say, what you repeatedly spend, what you repeatedly tolerate eventually becomes your life. And Saturn understands repetition better than any planet. This is why your habits matter enormously. The second house is also the house of accumulated possessions. You may become increasingly practical about what you own. Rather than collecting things simply for status, you may eventually prefer quality, usefulness, durability, and long term value. You may not need to constantly display wealth. You may prefer knowing that your foundation is secure. And there is something powerful about that, because real wealth doesn't always look impressive from the outside. Sometimes it looks like having no unnecessary debt, a stable income, savings that nobody knows about, assets quietly growing, and the freedom to handle an unexpected crisis without your entire life collapsing. That is Saturn's kind of wealth. Slow, quiet, durable. However, there is a shadow side. You may become overly fearful about money. Even when you have enough, you may worry that it won't be enough tomorrow. You may find it difficult to spend money on yourself. You may feel guilty about enjoying what you have earned. And this is an important lesson. Financial discipline should create freedom, not fear. Money is meant to give you security, not become another source of anxiety. Another challenge can be pessimism, because Saturn sees what could go wrong. You may naturally think about the worst case scenario that can protect you from reckless decisions, but if taken too far, it can prevent you from enjoying opportunities. You don't need to eliminate caution. You need to balance caution with confidence. As you mature, this balance becomes easier. Your relationship with money becomes calmer. Your speech becomes stronger. Your values become clearer. Your family responsibilities become more manageable. And slowly, the things that once felt like limitations begin becoming your greatest strengths. This is why Saturn in the second house can become more impressive with age. You may not have the fastest beginning, but you can have a remarkably strong foundation. And one day, you may look at the life you've built and realize something extraordinary. The wealth wasn't created by one lucky opportunity. It was created through thousands of disciplined decisions. The respected voice wasn't created overnight. It was developed through years of learning. The family security wasn't an accident. You built it. The stability wasn't given to you. You earned it. And perhaps that is the real secret of Saturn in the second house. What comes slowly can become difficult to take away. So don't judge your financial journey by how quickly someone else accumulated. Don't judge your voice by how confidently someone else speaks. Don't judge your life by what you haven't built yet. Saturn works differently. It asks you to build something that can survive time. And when Saturn finally gives the results of those years of discipline, you don't simply receive wealth. You receive the wisdom to keep it. You don't simply gain a powerful voice. You gain the maturity to know when to use it. And you don't simply create security for yourself. You can become the person who creates security for everyone who comes after you. That is the real power of Saturn in the second house. Not instant abundance, but lasting abundance. Not a temporary rise, but a foundation that can stand for decades.